Hi guys, today we're looking at a Leica Russian bake. It's actually a Zorki S. This cost me $145 on eBay plus $24 shipping. Today they've went up a little in price and their value on eBay is about $200 plus $35 shipping. The condition on this one is, I will call it okay. Cosmetically, it's a very pretty camera and everything works sort of. The personal significance of this is pretty low. It was just too pretty to resist. Mine has the German Luftwaffe markings. It's actually says Luftwaffe Eigentum, or I'm not sure how to pronounce that in German, but it means Air Force property. The historical significance is these were made from 1955 to 1958. This Zorki S. The original Zorkis were made starting in 1932. So this camera has been around for a long time, this basic makeup camera. The only difference between a Zorki, the original, which would also be called a Zorki 1, and this Zorki S is this additional sync port, and they removed the rewind lever and replaced it with the lock button. There are tons of these on eBay in various colors, in various coverings with leather and wood grains and alligator skins, and with markings for the Olympics and different military and Nazi engravings. Here's a few you will find if you go to eBay and just search for Russian Leicas. This is a product of the Krasnogorsk Mechanical Factory, KMZ, which is the company that also produced the Zenit single-lens reflex cameras. This particular one has a 50mm f3.5 Industar 22 lens. It's disguised to look like a Elmar lens, but it's actually the Industar 22 is actually a copy of the Zeiss Tessar design. It has a collapsible lens and it's a quite small camera. As you'll know in this view, the collapsible lens, I'll take the lens cap off. When you keep it shut, it's actually pretty small. It could easily fit in your pocket. On the camera front, we have the sync port. That's, like I said, the only real difference on the Zorki S as opposed to the Zorki 1. The two rangefinder windows and the viewfinder window in the center. The lens takes a standard 39mm Leica thread mount with an infinity lock. This particular one goes f3.5 to f18. To open the lens, you just pull it out and turn it counterclockwise, and it will lock in the out position. To get this lens off, you just have to turn it counterclockwise and it spins right off. And 39mm thread mount is actually pretty easy to get in and out. It has a standard horizontal traveling focal plane shutter, although it's an interesting shutter. This little lever here is how it senses the distance for focal length. So when you change the focus, this goes in and out. Whoops, sorry. This part goes in and out with the threads and pushes on that little plate. 39mm is usually pretty easy to get threaded back in. And this little button here is the infinity lock. So if you push that button down and turn it, this is your normal focus ring. And of course you would focus it with the lens barrel extended fully. That would be your focus from close up. And then if you push it, it'll snap into the infinity lock position, which is handy if you wanted to take pictures outside at near infinity or pictures of stars and things like that. The f-stops are set with this little ring very close to the center of the barrel. So there's f3.5 and there's f18. I'll collapse that back down. On the camera top, we have the rewind knob, a cold shoe. This is the shutter speed dial. And this little lever beside it is the sync selector dial for adjusting the number of milliseconds before the sync fires when you take a picture. So On the normal Zorkis, there would be numbers here, but since this has been refurbished and branded with a Luftwaffe copy and painted black, they've painted over where those numbers were. So this would have been 0, and as you turn it, there would be numbers 5, 10, 15, and up to 25, if I can get this lever to move, and there would be 25 milliseconds of delay before the sync contacts close to fire your external flash. 0 you would use for electronic flash. This is the shutter button, and it's threaded for a cable release, and the collar around the shutter button, and again there's letters that would be here on a normal Zorki, which are covered over with the black paint, but there's a little dot on this indicator, little black dot. That would be the normal forward position where you would advance the film and take pictures, like so. And then if you wanted to rewind the film, you would turn this all the way clockwise and then pull up the rewind button and crank the film into the take-up spool. So the normal shooting position is this way, and in theory I believe there was a middle position which is indicated on the true Zorki cameras, and that should be locking the shutter, but this particular one doesn't lock. So I would leave it there all the time. This, of course, is the winding knob and the film frame counter, which you have to reset manually. There's a little arrow which you can barely see right there. So if you had just loaded the film, you would turn this so that 0 would be right there, and that would be the 0 setting for taking your first empty exposures. On the right side and the left side, there isn't anything. On the camera back, we have the rangefinder window and the viewfinder window and little else. On the camera bottom, we have the tripod socket, which in the case of this German Leica equivalent, it's a 3/8 by 16 thread instead of no wimpy 1/4 by 20 like in most cameras. And of course this little lever would release the film bottom to load the film. You turn it counterclockwise to release it. The back comes off. You would thread the film in here. This there are lots of videos online showing you how to load Leica cameras. This is the take-up spool. If you look at my previous video on a Leica, I'll show you how one got loaded. They're very tricky to load, and you have to be very careful because you can easily get the film jammed up in there and have to peel it out in pieces so you don't damage the camera. I have to warn you here that the manual doesn't say you have to do this, and there's mixed feelings on the internet. Apparently on the older Zorkis and on most old cameras, you have to cock the shutter before you set the shutter speed. There's lots of warnings about doing that on this camera. There's also at least one online reference that says on this particular model you don't have to do it, but in general it's a good idea to always cock the shutter first before you set the shutter speed. The shutter and the shutter speeds are real interesting on this camera. You'll notice on the shutter speed dial the space between a 25th of a second and a 50th of a second is twice the space between a 50th and a 100th, which is twice the space between 100th and 200 roughly, and that's twice the space between that and 250 to 500. And that's because this shutter only moves at one speed, and the shutter speed is actually just a change in the width of the slot that goes across the film plane. So I took some slow motion videos to show you the effect of the shutter moving across at a constant speed, but all that changes is the width of the opening for the different shutter speeds. Okay, that's it guys. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.